Welcome to the 2012 New South Wales DPI Irrigated Winter Crop Preseason meetings for the Murrumbidgee Valley. Given recent flooding and the start of summer crop harvest in the region, we were unable to hold our usual preseason winter crop meetings.
This presentation will take you through a review of the 2011 season and look at some of the key messages as we go into this year's 2012 winter crop season.
The 2011 cropping season was characterised by a number of factors. Large rainfall events occurred in February and December, with just over 160 millimetres falling in February 2011 and just over 80 millimetres in December 2010. Much of the region therefore started on a full profile of moisture, which negated the need in most cases of pre-irrigating. The season was then followed by a dry winter, which made establishment difficult, as after emergence the season turned dry. Lastly, mites caused significant damage at crop establishment. Many crops were baited at least once at sowing. Sod-sown wheat crops were the worst affected, with often multiple baitings occurring. This graph shows the growing season rainfall for Griffith from April through to the end of October. For 2011, the growing season rainfall for Griffith was 194 millimetres compared to the long-term average of 239.7. After a promising start in early April, rainfall through late April and early to mid-May was patchy. The 30+ millimetres of rain that fell towards the end of May was a welcome relief. It strengthened the potential of the crops already sown and enabled any remaining area to be sown.
In contrast to Colleambally, we had a very dry May and June period, resulting in patchy establishment. This, I feel, combined with mice damage, resulted in poor yield potential in many of our district crops.
Now, looking at this graph, it shows the lead up to the current season. From the 1st of January 2012 to the 22nd of March 2012, our area received anywhere from 250 to 400 millimetres of rain, setting up this winter cropping season. This graph shows the rainfall outlook for the next 3 months from the 1st of April to the 30th of June. The Murrumbidgee Valley is sitting in the 100 to 200 millimetre range, which is average to above average for this time of year. Whilst varietal choices have already been made, we hope this section provides you with some timely reminders, given that there is a large range of varieties. It's basically important to manage the varieties you know. As we have seen with our variety trials, management is the key, whether it be disease or irrigation. It's important to try new varieties through seed increasing, but you will need to be cautious as there is limited trial data in a lot of cases on the varieties, and seed supplies may be limited as well. In varieties, you need to look for lodging potential and a quality fit. A lot of the new varieties are of APW or ASW quality and not often suited to a fully irrigated environment with a weaker straw strength.
Do you change varieties based on last year? Possibly not. A number of factors need to be taken into consideration with your variety choice. These include seasonal conditions at sowing. For example, looking at rain events in autumn and soil moisture conditions at sowing, as this will be a big factor if we can get crops in on time. Looking at paddock history, for example, the stubble loads. Disease resistance and tolerance for soil or stubble-borne diseases, as well as foliar diseases. Herbicide resistance issues in paddocks and seed availability. And lastly, the quality classification of that variety. Andrew Milgate has compiled the results of the high-yielding winter cereal irrigated trials from the past 4 years from 2007 to 2010. The project was designed to identify cereal genotypes that will provide cereal breeding programs with a framework for selection of high-yielding potential lines grown under irrigation to maximise yield. The large irrigated wheat trial was run from 2007 to 2010, Yanco, Griffith, Hillston, Colleambally, Deniliquin and Kerrang. As well as looking at the performance of irrigated wheat, it also looked at barley, durum, triticale varieties in our region. It is now complete and an Excel spreadsheet tool is available for growers and advisors to use. The top 10 named wheat varieties from the high-yielding trial are graphed here. As an example out of the trial, you can see that a lot of the varieties we know or have used in the past have topped these trials. It's interesting to also note that over 60 unreleased lines have higher yields than these varieties. So let's hope some of these make it into commercialisation.
Okay, moving on from that, this graph shows the results of an irrigated early wheat NVT trial at Murrumbidgee last season. Keeping in mind that it is one season's data and it's important to consider looking at the long-term comparisons of the variety trials, this particular trial was sown on the 10th of May and had an average yield of 5.9 tonnes per hectare. The trial was sown into moisture and irrigated twice in the spring. Last year's data indicates that there is very little difference between varieties, showing management is the key to varietal performance. Similarly with the irrigated main wheat NVT trial at Murrumbidgee, it was sown on the 1st of June and had an average yield of 4.86 tonnes per hectare. The trial was sown into moisture as well and also irrigated twice in spring. Again, keep in mind it's one season's data and it's important to consider looking at the long-term comparisons of the variety trials. The main trial at Murrumbidgee last year also shows very little difference between varieties, showing management is the key to varietal performance.
This is an interesting slide. Many factors really determine yield, and variety choice is just a small part of the puzzle. As grain growers, you're trying to manage as many of these factors as possible to get the best result from yield. The following are cereal options that you could consider in 2012. This has come from local experience and recent NVT trials.
Given the early break and the full profile of moisture available and price prospects for canola compared to wheat, canola is going to be a popular option this season. Keep in mind though with canola, there are a lot of varieties on the market with 61 for this season. And there's often no local trial data available and none specific to irrigation, so it's often a case of using commercial experience with a variety. Looking at the dryland NVT trials in the south, they yielded just over 3 tonne per hectare, but it's important to use long-term data again as the best guide. This long-term data can be found on the NVT website with a summary of trials available from district agronomists. Just with those new varieties, this chart shows the extent of the new varieties available in 2012.
The following are the canola picks for 2012 from NVT trial data plus local commercial experience. To get the most from your canola in 2012, you should be treating your seed or fertiliser for blackleg and choosing varieties with at least some level of resistance. You can get a copy of the 2012 ratings for blackleg from your district agronomist. And secondly, just a reminder, don't skimp on sowing rates, and on irrigation we're really aiming for that high yield. We're trying to get to 40 plants per square metre. As far as other break crops go, you have the pulse options. Keep in mind that they do not like wet feet, so it depends what happens over winter. Try to pick your paddocks, for example, that are better drained and better layouts such as beds. You could consider favour beans, which are better as far as waterlogging is concerned with the pulses. So Fiesta or Farah. Chickpeas, the Desi varieties, you've got Slasher and Boundary. And for Kabuli, Genesis 090. Field peas, consider Celine, and for the done field peas, Percy and Aura. This slide shows the gross margin comparisons, which is I guess what we're all on about making money out of cropping between the different winter crops. It should be used as a guide only and adjusted for your own situation. And this spreadsheet is available via email from Kieran and Rachael.
Lastly, you may or may not have heard of the program CropMate. It's basically a tool to analyse climate and weather information to help you make informed decisions during the crop cycle. It was developed by New South Wales DPI using information provided by the Queensland Climate Change Centre of Excellence, the Bureau of Meteorology, and it's funded by GRDC. There's also a free variety chooser app for your iPhone, iPod Touch and iPad, As seen in this slide, it helps you to choose varieties of barley, canola, chickpeas, oats, triticale and wheat based on New South Wales DPI's variety guide.
Thanks for listening. For more information on any of the presentations that you've seen today, please contact either Kieran or myself at the Griffith office.